Hello, this is Father Louis Skirty with Monsignor Paul Bocchicchio, classmate from Seton Hall University and Darlington. How are you, Paul?
Good, fine.
Well, thank you for being here. We are here at St. Aloysius Church in Rectory in Caldwell, New Jersey. Mike is the pastor, Father Monsignor Michael Desmond, and he's hosting us on the 45th anniversary of our class. Now, basically, I'm in the university class graduation, but we went to different seminaries, so that changed. So I still celebrate the 45 years, even though I'm not ordained 45 years yet. We're basically the same age, about 25, right?
Right. Plus.
Paul, okay, Seton Hall University, minor seminary, divinity school. What was your experiences there, and how would you want to share some of those experiences with men who are beginning to be interested in seminary and, of course, priesthood?
Well, I think it was, I saw that time as a time of, just kind of an awakening in terms of trying to understand priesthood, but basically getting to know the guys that, in many respects, you would spend the rest of your life knowing,
Yes,
and sharing ministry with, and I found it particularly my second year at Seton Hall when I boarded, and it was a sacristan. It kind of gave me a real, insight into some sort of a communal life, and sharing and getting to know people, and being able to at least get my feet wet in terms of our courses, and things that would prepare us for the major seminary.
The format of our divinity school participation was education, of course, as Seton Hall. We're on the campus of Seton Hall. But also, with that, we had another community aspect. The second floor of Boland Hall, which was the residence hall then, was our place. And as Bob mentioned before, we had our chapel, and we had our religious life, spiritual activities that were over and above our academic life there. And some of those, as well as the social life that we shared, have bonded us together for so many years.
There were so many things that we did, both formally and informally, that really, I think you used the correct term, bond, and really bonded people. That even if you don't see, your brothers for a long period of time, you can kind of just pick up where you left off.
Is that the truth? Yeah. Paul and I had lunch about 3 weeks ago, and exactly what we did. We picked up where we had left off before we saw that. And in subsequent shows, you're going to find out where Paul's ministry took him and how he and I became affiliated with my home parish. But let's go back to Seton Hall. Give me one of your best experiences there.
Well, I think really the camaraderie. I remember one thing that I would do. They did takeoffs on the professors, and I remember Dr. Stachek.
Yes, I remember that.
But all those things had a way of building spirit. It was good fun,
Yes,
and it was kind of a way that, I think helped us to develop a good sense of humor, in terms of being able to see the humor in our day-to-day activities there, as well as being serious enough about what we were all about, and what we were headed for. I think being sacristan kind of gave me an interesting insight into a lot of the priests.
Tell our audience what sacristan is.
Yeah, sacristan is someone who takes care of setting up for Mass, opening the chapel, any of the devotions that take place, and you have a lot of interaction with many different priests. Since we have so many priests on the campus, that it gave you an insight into their ministry, and maybe gave you some sense of where you were supposed to go with ministry.
A direction, right. So that really affected you, being the sacristan there. And I know some of the classmates are here today, and some of them are deceased, some of them have chosen other paths in life. But in many ways, when we say the names of the guys who were with during those 2 years, especially at Seton Hall, the whole story comes back, right?
It does.
It does for me, anyway. Where we went, how we hung out, even our social life together.
Right. It was I think it was a necessary step for us to, to build that sense of community, particularly at that time, that the seminary was trying to foster.
Yes.
And I think it was a good starting point.
Right, right. And then after those 2 years at Seton Hall, our third year was at the major seminary. And that was, well, for me, it was a blast. I mean, not a positive blast, but like it was such an awesome experience and so different from what I was used to in my youth growing up, in my high school, my early college. It was very different. We started wearing black, for instance.
Yeah, I think, by and large, as I look back, I'm glad we went through it, when we did, because we kind of the seminary we entered was not the seminary we left. It was a period of great transition because of Vatican II. But I was always grateful for those first 2 years there, because I think it gave me a foundation in my spirituality. It was a very structured life, but I felt at that point I needed that. I needed to,
Yes.
get a direction, and I think there was, we had the usual fun in the seminary. I mean, I remember, how your parents would bring up the pasta on Sunday, and it wasn't allowed, and we would sneak it in.
Everybody remembers that.
But some of the experiences, because you had to live in such close quarters with people, it made you come to terms with yourself as well as dealing with many different personalities, and I think to some degree, even though I think it's been somewhat renewed, in the present seminary system, but I think that some of that got lost, somewhere along the line. I think the esprit de corps, even if the esprit de corps meant, the faculty versus the students,
Right, at least
yeah, but it wasn't a real enmity. It was just kind of one of those developmental things, that
you had to go through.
Right, but I think I'm always very grateful for the experience at Darlington.
Now, among other things, I'm a marriage and family therapist, so I do a lot of counseling. Then we had spiritual directors.
Yeah.
And looking back, I always had a spiritual director, even in grammar school and high school, because the local parish, we were very close, local, and Holy Rosary. So I always had a priest that I could talk to. Now, I didn't know it was spiritual direction then,
Right.
It was just chatting with Monsignor Santora, Father Covatello, and so on. But that stayed with me. Then when we went to the seminary, the minor seminary and the major seminary, we were assigned, or we picked out our spiritual directors, and we met with him every week. What a wonderful experience that was. And I look back on it, and I realized how important that was, guiding us along the way.
Right. I had Monsignor Jarvis.
Oh, you had a saint. Oh, I love Monsignor Jarvis.
And he was very practical, as well as always setting an ideal. But it was real. His approach was real. I remember one time when I said, I think I'm going to leave the seminary. He said, no, you're not. And he kind of talked you through it, because a lot of times, again, because of all the introspection when you're there, you look at things maybe too seriously, and you needed somebody to kind of slap you in the face.
Yeah, reality check.
And to give you a reality check.
That's great. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I have, two that stick out. Rosario, remember, Father? They used to call him Rosie.
Oh, Rufino.
Rosario Rufino. He was wonderful. And strong influence on me.
He was baptized in Holy Rosary.
Okay, so we have to mention Holy Rosary again. Okay, we're going to end this interview in a few seconds, but we have to continue with this piece on Holy Rosary because we have a mass to go to.
Yeah.
Remember Holy Rosary as
a seminarian?
As seminarians?
I remember when you invited us to go down with the all-night vigils, and it gave me a great insight to the devotional life and the faith of the people there. And who knew that years later I'd be their pastor? Yeah.
Exactly. We went down with Bob Shacker, and so many of us, like at least 12, went down and stayed all night with the people, and we had Bible vigils, rosaries, benediction, different kind of prayer experiences, and Father Malanga was so open to us, bringing ideas to the church and the people. Come on. Seminarians dressed up and looked like a little priest. We were stars, but it was authentic for us, I really think. And then years later, you become the pastor at Holy Rosary. And that was a wonderful experience, I know.
Yeah, it was, 21 years later.
Wonderful. And that's where we're going to stop, and we're going to pick up with Monsignor Bokikio at another episode. Thank you for joining us. This is the reunion of our class, and we thank you for being with us. Pass this on to your family and friends. And if you contact me, it's fatherlouskirty@hotmail.com. Do you care to give your email?
Yeah, it's msgrboc@gmail.com.
Okay, and what I'll do is have that under the byline as well.
Good.
Paul, wonderful.
Good. Thank you.
And we'll continue.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us.
Good.